Hello and welcome to FG Helps episode number 2. This is the series where we take the knowledge and expertise of our staff and get it into your phones and your homes, hopefully teach us all something, make us all better at dealing with modern life. My name's Dan, I'm Media and Communications Coordinator here at Family Gateway, joined by Kirsty. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kirsty, one of the Health and Wellbeing Coaches from Family Gateway.
Today we're going to be talking about, it's a bit of a weird, vacuous topic, because last month we talked about EHCPs and how they help send children, and basically through our conversations with people about that video and then our Send Hope support group and our kind of wider support work, we learned that quite often that leads to issues in the home, SEND diagnosis. So We're going to talk today about kind of strategies for creating routines and boundaries, kind of the friction points in the house amongst families, which will hopefully lead to smoother home lives for all of us. I forgot to say, Billy's here like last time, keeping us right. And we're also joined by Katie. Are you Northumbria, Newcastle?
Northumbria.
From Northumbria Uni, another student placement. This is now the official punishment for all students have to come and do an episode of FG Helps. Before we get going, do you want to explain kind of how you came to live in your job and why people should bother to listen to you?
Well, so I've worked in sort of like community and family work for quite a number of years now. I started off by just running a toddler group, which then led to getting a job in the local community centre. Then I went on to work with a charity called Healthworks, then moved on and ended up here at Family Gateway. So I had a lot of referrals in for parents who were struggling to sort of get the right support for SEND children. So from that I decided that I was going to set up a group for parents to come along and just share their experiences, get, some speakers coming in to talk about relevant things within the session. And a lot of the things parents were struggling with is knowing the boundaries and for, saying that just because a child has SEND needs, they still need to know right and wrong.
Yeah.
And that's where this has sort of come from.
Yeah. So we're hoping that we can kind of build on that. It's came out of, this topic has came out of our discussions with parents of SEND kids.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that everyone can kind of benefit from it.
Yeah, because, these things, it's not just about SEND kids, it's about any children really. They've got to have routines and boundaries and to make things happier in the home.
So my little one is knocking on the door of 3 years old and he's suddenly decided that he runs the house. So we're gonna make sure that we can keep him in check. That's gonna be the test. There's a work on my little one. So we'll start by saying, what problems would you say you most often see causing friction within families?
So a lot of the problems I've come across in this work is sort of like children fighting with their siblings.
Yeah.
And having sort of getting, not having two parents who are on the same wavelength as well.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you've got dad who's quite soft and mum who's trying to be the strict one. And that causes a lot of conflict as well.
Yeah. So we've got siblings fighting, classics.
Yeah.
A clash of parent style, should we call it?
Yeah.
Anything else you can think of?
And as parents knowing what boundaries are and how to sort of stick to them.
Yeah.
Because, it's easier said than done. And I know myself, I've got a daughter myself who's got SEND needs. She's older now, but when she was younger, it was where do you draw the line?
Yeah. And
where do you let them get away with things and where you don't?
Yeah. So we'll get on to kind of how we address, if we call those our big three, if we call, tension amongst siblings, a clash of parent style, and where those boundaries are drawn. If we call that our big three, we'll get on to your kind of strategies for fighting them. But, so like I said, we're talking about kind of all kids, but what specific wrinkles, let's say, do you think a SEND diagnosis can kind of put into these problems? So
obviously, if you've got a child who has SEND needs, it's, they still need to know like the boundaries and what's right and wrong and what they can and can't do. But it's quite hard knowing whether it's just the bad behaviours or whether it's a behaviour related to their diagnosis or their potential diagnosis. So a lot of parents, have said to me, my children still need to know right from wrong, but it's like that's one of the big things is it the same needs or is it a behavioural?
Yeah. I think it's a big thing that I've learned here. So if anyone who kind of follows us regularly will know, I run our Dungeons and Dragons group. And that was the first time that I was kind of in charge of young people and kind of dealt with them directly. And it's something that I struggle with was knowing, okay, how much leniency do I give, well, one to any child, because I'm a very loose, yeah, it'll be all right. I'm a bit bad for that. But then also the guys who come to us who have those same diagnoses, it's hard for me to kind of say, okay, where is that line? How much more do they get? Do they get the same? Because sometimes some people say that's the right way to go. Some people say, well, you got to give them a little bit more rope.
Yeah, and I think that is a massive thing, especially if you're a parent, you've got 2 children who have had no additional needs, and then you've got your 3rd child, and how do you parent different with that child?
Yeah.
Compared to like what you did with your 2 who, you know, people would say on your typical children.
Yeah. Okay, so we've spoke about kind of the 3 issues you see coming up over and over again in your work. For those who kind of don't know, the vast majority of what Family Gateway does on that side of work that isn't the hub is basically dealing with families who come to us who have certain issues. We go in and we say, okay, this is what we can do to kind of help you along, help you put these strategies in place. So let's imagine we're doing that. Let's imagine we're saying, okay, we've got a brand new family. If a family was to come to you and report constant fighting between the siblings, how would you go about helping them deal with that?
So obviously we'd sort of try and work with the whole family. You know, it's pointless just telling mum or telling dad what to do. We sort of try and include the kids in and sort of get them to make their own rules up as well, but guide them so they make the right rules up.
Yeah.
So sort of putting words into their mouth, really saying, you know, yous are siblings, yous grow up together, yous need to be friends, and sort of do some team building sort of activities with them where they've got to work together to do things. And show them that being together is better than them fighting and doing, you know, random stuff. So things like playing Jenga where you've got to keep it up and, you know, trying to work to see if you can keep the stack up rather than fighting each other to see who's going to pull the wrong one out.
So the game's not to win, it's to work together.
Yeah, it's to work together. So like
include them in the kind of process of setting these rules.
Yeah.
Create them with some activities that focus on working together.
Yeah.
Anything else?
As well, if with sort of the younger ones especially, doing reward charts as well. And, you know, parents can set them up, and I know it's hard, but it's getting the kids involved in what the reward chart is, and it doesn't have to be like buying something massive.
Yeah.
It's all about, you know, if you get 10 stars on your chart, we'll choose a family film to watch, or we'll choose what takeaway to get on a Friday night. You know, and let them work together on it, and maybe just design their own reward charts.
So that's task 1. The siblings are now best mates. But oh no, the parents aren't best mates because we've got a clash of parenting style.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
So as I said, it's pointless just working with mum and telling mum, you know, give mum advice. It's best, and sometimes it's hard to do because often dads are out working or, you know, being busy doing other things, but trying to get dads involved as well, rather than just saying, you know, mum, this is what we suggest you do, give this a try. Getting dad on side, or even if it's, you know, if parents are separated as well, that can be a massive issue. You know, where children are with one parent for a full week and then they go to their other parents, trying to get both parents to sort of have the same boundaries, the same rules, the same sort of routines as well. Because I know with certain children, a lot of it is about keeping to the routines because they get so dysregulated when they're out of the routine, and that's when sort of fireworks fly off, and, you know, but yeah, trying to work with dad and mum, or, you know, both parents, just because we find often sometimes there's always one parent who are a little bit softer than others.
I think what helped us, obviously, like I said, ours is not on the door of 3. And what helps us is we have had big kind of sit-down conversations about, all right, what do we want, how do we want to raise them, and what kind of do we want them to be like? And that's kind of helped when there is that clash between us, because I'd quite happily have a meeting chocolate cake till 11 o'clock at night most nights. It's reminding myself, no, there's a thing we agreed. Yeah. There's a central agreement between us. And probably, I think that also helps people with sending kids, knowing that your end goal is to keep that kid as happy and as regulated as possible, and knowing that having that kind of, so we can facilitate that when we work with families. I know we've sometimes had in, together or separated households, kind of big family meetings here at the hub, and kind of that they've left with an agreement of this is how we want to parent the kid, and definitely. That's something you can refer back to. So lastly, parents are on board as well, kids are on board as well, but there's still that lack of boundaries in the house. First of all, how does that present itself most often in our work?
So if there's sort of a lack of boundaries in the household, it tends to be quite chaotic. Yeah. And you've got one child out playing football, the other child's doing something else, and it's trying to keep the household a little bit calm. So we would suggest routines is probably the best thing to go by. So, have a routine from when you get up in the mornings and, the children sit down and have breakfast together. Then everybody goes to get ready together, then brush teeth, and try to stick to things like that. And quite often as well with younger children and SEND children, we can do charts where they can tick off when they've done each thing. And as well, after school, sometimes that's a nightmare. Because you never know what sort of day they've had at school, whether they're going to be happy, whether they're going to be sad, whether they're going to kick off. So having the same sort of routines when you pick them up from school is good as well. So, pick them up from school, go home, maybe have a little snack, because I know kids are always starving when they come out of school, and then sort of let them have some free time while you're sort of you're preparing tea, and then sort of sit down, have tea together, and then and you can also have the charts where you take those off as well. And sometimes getting the kids involved with deciding what they're going to have for tea. Yeah. Get them in, if they can and they're capable, get them involved in making tea as well. That gives them that little bit of independence.
Because I think what I've quite often seen when we've dealt with kind of kids in general here, when we do kind of half and kind of activities where we have lots of kids, I think in my experience they struggle with the transition. Yeah. They struggle with stop activity A, we're going to go into activity B now. Yeah. I think all kids struggle with that. Yeah. So I think, like you said, maybe kind of at least pre-warning them. Yeah. So all right guys, you know what's coming next. And so how do you kind of communicate that to them? Does it exist in one central place in the house, like a big chart on the wall, or?
So it works different in different households. So some of them are on sort of flip chart paper, and then they just flip it over. So they've got the morning routine, and then you can flip it over. You've got the afternoon routine, and sort of flip it over like that. But I do think, as well, is I find having a clock. Yeah. And saying to them, when this, if you're using a digital clock, when this is 5 and this is 00, that's when I'm going to sit down and have tea. Yeah. And having a big visual clock, not just a little watch on or a what have you. And as well, I think time out if things are sort of going out of control and the kids are fighting or whatever. I think taking the kids out of that situation and giving them time out. And I find the sand timers are really good, because you can get them where they're 2 minutes, 3 minutes, depending on the age. Let them tip it over and watch the sand go down, and it sort of helps calm them while they're watching the sand. And then hopefully they're regulated and they can get back to doing what they should be.
Right, now here's my guarantee. If you need one, and you can either find a chart yourself online, come in to the hub and I'll print it for free, or if you're really struggling, come to reception and I can probably make you one.
Yeah. In the past I've had the kids in making their own reward charts.
That's probably better than me doing it.
So they've come into the hub and we've sat and we've got the pens out and they've drew a picture and then they've drew their own little chart. And I think it gives them that ownership of it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can say to a kid, well, look, we agreed this, you made it, like, let's stick to it. Lovely. So that's kind of, I know there's 1,001 problems that can happen in a house, but that's kind of our basics, what we usually see, and what we would kind of do as first steps to combat it. Obviously, kind of, you can come and meet, you know, our staff, and so we now run what's called a single point of access model. So whereas previously you would have had to go through kind of a referral and everything to be seen by us, if you now kind of walk in, we can begin that process. It might not end in kind of formal support by us, but now you can just walk in and say, I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z, and we'll do our best to get you where you need to be. So before we wrap up with your top tips and all that, any questions from the audience?
Yes, I know it's important that the kids sleep well, so how would you manage this in the home?
So, yes, sleep is a massive thing. You know, and I think the best thing to do is have a regular bedtime, stick to the regular bedtimes, take any sort of iPads, computers, any sort of screens away from them sort of half an hour before bed, so they can sort of relax, maybe read a book with them, do something calming. And I know it's really hard when you're a parent and you're absolutely knackered, but try and be consistent and keep putting them back into their own bed. Mm-hmm. Because the more you do that, the more they're going to think, oh, well, I'm not going to get away with this. Because there's nothing worse as a parent having 3 kids in the bed kicking you all over in the middle of the night. So it's hard. And sometimes you just want that little bit of sleep, so you just let them in the bed. Try your hardest just to keep them in their own room and keep to regular bedtimes. And as I say, calm, relaxing before bed.
That was my mum's catchphrase. She'd put us to bed and I'd go, but I'm not tired. And she'd go, as long as your body's rested, that's what you said. But now I realise what she really meant was, I need you to go to bed at the same time every day. Even if you're not necessarily falling asleep like that. Yeah. The idea of, okay, no, well, it's this time. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what we struggle with our son, is that, sorry, not mine and your son. Yeah. Is like, because the age he is, his bedtime changes depending on when he wakes up. So it can kind of be a bit hard for a routine sometimes. So he'll sleep roughly 12 hours. But if he goes to bed at 7 and he gets up at 6, then you're all out of whack. But rather than going like, oh, wait, no matter what happens, mate, it is this time every night. I mean, I know it's harder with like younger kids, but yeah, hopefully when he does reach that age where that's more of an applicable thing, we'll be able to say same time every night. Yeah, and trying to keep them in their own bed as well is massive for both parents and the children's sleep. Yeah, because you can't parent effectively if you're also knackered. Yeah, definitely. My wife's also pregnant in the minute, so I'm looking forward to that. Saying you can't parent effectively if you're knackered. Yeah. I'll see how I feel in a few months. So do you want to close up with, say what you did with Peter last month, your top 5 tips, but top 5 tips for keeping an effective and happy house? So I think one of them is definitely having consistent routines and keeping them in place wherever possible. I know things pop up and you have to sort of go out of routine, but where possible, keep to the routines. Active listening as well. Listen to the kids, listen to what they want to do, and get them involved in sort of making the rules and like setting the boundaries. Also, be a good role model of them as well. You know, if you're screaming and shouting, they're going to be screaming and shouting. You know, try and be as calm as possible. And again, I know that's easier said than done when you're knackered and you've got 3 kids pulling at you, but try your hardest to keep calm and show like a good role model. As well, sort of having some family time where you are all involved in keeping, you know, it could be family time playing a board game or watching something good on TV, but you know, family time is important, I think. And as well, both parents try and work on the same sheet. Yeah. Try and do the same as the other parent. And that's my 5 top tips. Lovely. That's episode 2 in the books. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you got something out of it. as I'll always say, the best place you can kind of learn more about what we're doing and what Family Gateway do day to day is familygateway.co.uk. Or you can pop into the hub on Denby Avenue, come meet us in person, meet us for a cuppa. Some of the stuff we've touched on, I know I plugged this last month, but Sending Hope, Monday mornings.
It's 9:30 till 11:30, free tea and coffee.
Lovely. For parents
with SEND children. They don't have to have a diagnosis, they can just, because we've got a lot who are just going through the pathway, and I think having parents to support other parents is what the key is, so they can give, and it's full of tips and ideas in that group as well.
Lovely. Before I go as well, I'll say I'm not here on Friday. Kirsty's unfortunately leaving us. It's a sad part of kind of working in charities. We all love doing it, but we all kind of take the burden off. Sometimes, things change, things go away. I'm not here on Friday to say it, so this is the reason I got her on camera this time. It's basically say, Casey's going to be a massive miss. Like I said, it's part of charities. People come, people go, however sad it is. She's off to a fantastic new place, do a fantastic new job. I want to say best of luck, because I'm not going to be here when you do go. Here's one of these. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure working with you, Dan.